What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Careers with Nellie, the podcast where we discuss everything about careers, job search strategies, and personal development topics. So, guys, in today's conversation, we are going to delve deep as we continue with the conversation that I had started with one of my guests last year on remote jobs. And because we've been in a week where people have been so tensed, so worried about, or rather following the executive order from the United States president and the closure of the USAID funding to Kenya and other countries across the world. Imagine walking around and you're meeting your friends, you're meeting your family members who have lost jobs. So guys, this is going to be one of the things that we are going to have in this discussion, as I have Brian today in studio, who is going to help us to answer some of these questions around remote work, to answer some of these questions or help us just navigate through this conversation of what has been happening in the recent past. So help me to welcome Brian as we have a Q&A on all the questions that you've been asking about remote work. Welcome, Brian. How are you?
I'm very, very good, Nellie.
Thank you so much
for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, and welcome back again to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, so you'll just look at the camera, and to our viewers who has not seen you before, or even those who have seen you again, it is always nice to have you. So just look at the camera and introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Brian Mwithi. I've been working remotely now for 5 years almost, and I have loved every minute of it. And 3 years ago, I started a company to help more people get remote jobs, especially from the US companies that hire people in Africa. So I have a company called Careers Without Borders, and we help people like you get remote roles. And I'm here to discuss with Nellie the stuff that you can do to increase your chances of getting one this year.
All right, so thank you so much, Brian. And I think our first question is going to be on how this executive order from Donald Trump is going to affect the remote job space. We're already seeing people panicking left, right, and center. So maybe just from an expert point of view, what do you think about this executive order? How is it affecting the remote job space already?
Okay, so I think the biggest thing that has happened with the order is obviously the people who are losing their jobs. So you need to remember that it's not a permanent thing. He said that it's under review for 90 days and the jobs might come back, but you can never depend on that, right? Yeah, so people have started panicking and applying for jobs. We've had so many people reach out to us to help them get into the remote space, and it's gonna affect the job market a lot because number one, there's 40,000 people now who are looking for new jobs, 40,000 very qualified, very professional people. So the competition is going to increase, and this is going to mean fewer interviews and even lower offers in the next few months.
Okay. So again, as we wait for the 90 days, we understand the USAID office has already been closed. I think, as you're saying, it's not something really to make people panic. So I think in this conversation, we want to really just get deeper into more questions to help people quite understand all the inside outs of a remote job. So I think in that line, will you just tell us what are some of the best websites for remote jobs? And I think why this question is also very important for me and even for our viewers is because people have had people, or I've interacted with people saying like questioning the legitimacy of the different websites where remote jobs are posted. So will you just tell us, how do you check for our website for legit a remote job? Which are the best websites? And really what are really when it comes to those different websites, what is the differentiator that will help someone know that this one is fake, this one is legit?
I think that's a really, really good question, because even last week we had a client who was robbed 1.4 million Kenya shillings. Yeah, so he applied for a job on a random website. They told him they liked him. They gave him the contract. They started working. And then 2 weeks in, they wanted to send him a payment. So they asked him for his bank details in detail. He gave it to them. He thought everything was legit, and they stole everything that was in his bank. So you need to make sure that you're applying in the correct places, and you need to make sure that you know the small red flags that fake jobs have. So in terms of the websites that you should use, I think the first one will be Indeed and LinkedIn. Those ones have a lot of jobs, but they're not focused on remote roles. So you need to know how to use them to find them. So when it comes to LinkedIn, you need to go on the jobs page, search for the name of the job, and then now put in remote. So you can pick a country, maybe the US, maybe the UK, or any country you want to work at, and then now put remote. So the key trick for LinkedIn is if a role has the name of the city, so for example, Atlanta, Georgia, USA, do not apply. But if it only says USA, apply. So those are the ways we find them on LinkedIn, and indeed it's the same principle. So when it comes to websites that are specifically for remote jobs, there's We Work Remotely, there's remote.co, there's remoteafrica.com, and another one that we really like to use at our company, which is called angellist.com. So I think those are the websites that you should focus on. But of course, you need to do your own research and you need to consult someone and talk about them, because depending on the career path you're in, there's different websites that favor different people. So example, for HR, there's one that favors HR. For accounting, there's one that favors accounting. For tech roles, there's one that favors tech roles. So it's usually about consulting someone and then hearing which one would be the best for you to use.
Okay. So Brian, just following this executive order from the President of the United States, what would you advise people, especially those who have been directly affected, the 40,000 or so, or even the thousands of people globally who have been affected?
So the first thing I would advise them would be, you should never be comfortable at any role. So like for me, I have 2 consultancies or jobs that I'm doing, and I also have my own company that I'm running. So that's the type of industrialism you need to have. Even if the job is really good, even if it's remote, even if they pay you really well, you should always be applying. I make like 5 to 10 applications on a daily basis, even though I have 2 jobs and a company. Just because, number one, you never know what type of opportunities are out there that you're missing out on. And number 2, something like this can happen anytime and you can lose your main source of income. So you should always be applying, interviewing, so that you just see what is in the market. Also, I'd advise them to make sure that they take a look and they explore the remote space, because there's a lot of companies from the US, from the UK, from even Ireland, companies from Eastern Europe, Western Europe, companies from even the Middle East that would need the type of services and the skills that they have. They just need to know how to look for these jobs and how to present themselves to this company so that they get the interviews and the contracts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. So I think another question that I've really gotten people asking around remote jobs is about taxation. Are remote workers taxed, and how does tax happen in the remote space?
Okay, so that's a really good question, a question I get a lot, by the way. It just depends. Most companies will hire you as a contractor, at about 90% of them. So if you're hired as a contractor, that means that you get paid as a company. So if your salary is $4,000, it comes into your account as $4,000, no cutting, no nothing. But then now you lose some of the benefits, like you don't get health insurance, you don't get pension, you don't get some of the stuff. But you get your salary in full and you do your taxes yourself. So you declare to carry what you earn and then you pay taxes on your own. But some companies have vendors here in Kenya or HR firms that do that for them. So for example, if you're hired by maybe the UN in the US, they have someone here who will pay your salary and pay your taxes and also pay your pension and health insurance. So it usually just depends. But for most of our clients, it's usually just you finding an accountant and then discussing the nitty-gritties of your taxes, because you have to file on your own.
Yeah. So most of them file the taxes on their own.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And I think that's quite interesting, and it's really debunking the myth that people who work remotely do not pay tax. So people who work remotely actually pay tax.
Yeah. If you're brave, you can't. You can decide to not pay. Yeah, but I'd advise you to pay. But
it will catch up with you either way.
Yeah, I'd advise you to pay. Yeah. For sure.
Okay, thank you. So another question is on how remote work pay, because I also find, well, we are in an era where people, I would say especially young people, people don't prefer rather working from home, with the flexibilities that come with it. And sometimes you are having control of your time. So we have, I would say it's a mass movement, people running so much to go to remote jobs. And one thing that I get a lot that makes people highly prefer remote work is the pay. So how does remote work pay? And is it true that I work as a HR, as a recruiter? I work on site. I mean, I'm on a full-time work. So will is it true that a remote recruiter is possibly paid more than I am? In short, does remote jobs pay more for similar skills, experience?
Yeah, that is exactly it. Like I always tell people, there's someone, Nellie, who has even less skills than you, less qualified, less of a hard worker than you. But just because they work for a US company like your Kenya, they get paid double, triple what you get. Yeah. So the remote roles pay really, really well. So for example, my first role was as a CV writer and a LinkedIn profile optimizer for a US company. So if I was in Kenya, I would be paid like 30K a month or 40. But I was being paid $1,200 a month, which was at that time almost 170,000, which is absolutely crazy for that field. And for the clients that we have helped, so for example, a few months ago, we helped a client who was in communications, so a communications manager. She went from a role paying to 50K in Kenya to a role paying 10,000 USD a month in the US for the UNDP. So that's from to 50K to 1.3 million every month. So they do pay better, and that's why they're so competitive to get.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Now you have that information. What to do with it is absolutely up to you. So it will also be interesting to know, you've said that these remote jobs are quite competitive.
Yes.
Yes. So then that brings me to the question around skills, around skill sets and the specific competencies that remote jobs are looking for. So is there, like I was giving an example, a typical recruiter working for a company 8 to 5 in Kenya and a recruiter working for maybe a US based or any remote company? Will there be a difference in the type of skills required? And what is the speciality around the skills and competencies that are typical, a remote job will require?
Okay, so in that example, I think the most important thing to note would be that for a recruiter working remotely, you obviously have to have the soft skills to work remotely. So soft skills include being able to manage your time, being disciplined so that you can work with your TV right in front of you, with your bed next to you, you get. You also need to have the ability to communicate really well online, right? Because you're not going to meet these people physically. You have to be very good at texting, very good at replying to messages on the Slack or whatever communication tools you're using. So those are the soft skills. In terms of hard skills, I would say being able to use most tools. So for example, for HR tools, there's stuff like Workday. I am sure you still use that at your company, but now when you're working remotely, there's ways it's enhanced. Also, you need to be able to use project management tools. So there's things like Slack, there's things like Trello, Asana. You need to be able to use them. But the good thing is on YouTube, you can take 1 week and learn them all really easily. Yeah. So you just need to make sure that you display the soft skills on your CV. You don't put them down at I'm a good communicator, you show it. And then now you put down the hard skills. So if you're good at using Slack, Asana, Workday, if you're good at using Google Meet, Zoom, Teams, Slack, any of those tools, you make sure that you put them there. So me as a hiring manager, if we use one of those tools, I would have bias towards you because I wouldn't have to train you too much to be able to use them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's really key, because I know the tools or the skills that you've mentioned, especially the tools that you've mentioned are not common or are not kawaida things that people would use on a normal day-to-day on a job that is not remote. So if you're out there and you're looking for a job, as Brian has mentioned, that you can take even a week or less on platforms like YouTube to learn these skills. So then that also brings in my mind that it will be quite important before even someone starts looking for a remote job to really ensure that you've equipped yourself with these skills first.
Yeah, it's really important. But I always tell people the skills can be learned while you're applying. So for example, if you wanted a remote job in HR right now and you don't know how to use Slack, you don't know how to use Asana, Trello, so you can just do this. You put those skills on your CV, and then while you send applications, you also now make time to learn. Yeah. So the problem most people, they'll take 4 months to learn, and then think once they've learned the skill, getting the job will take 1 month or 1 week because now they have the skills. But it doesn't work like that. You have to do both of them at the same time, so that by the time you get the interviews, you're already good with Slack, you're already good with Asana, and you just now move forward and you save a lot of time. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. And I think another question that I also get a lot is on if I get a remote job in Kenya, maybe for a company that is based in the US, and I want to relocate and work on site, so does these companies, or do these companies have such flexibilities where if you get a remote job and you want to work on site, do they support you with the relocation? Are there possibilities of relocation for people who are working remotely?
Yeah. So over the last 4 years, we've helped over 500 people get remote roles, and most of them in the US. And for some of them, like at least 10% of them, they have relocated to the country where the job is just for convenience. So you can take yourself, because now you earn more and you save more, you can take yourself. And there are companies that sponsor you. If you really prove to be an asset to them, they have no problem spending that money. It's pocket change to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the possibility of people who are working remotely locating to countries where these companies are based.
Just recently, we had someone get a remote role. He got it in April last year, and then now in September he moved to the US, and now he got a second one. So he has two remote jobs at the same time. So you see, he's making a lot of money.
Okay. Wow, interesting, because that also just speaks into my next question on the partial. I mean, can remote jobs be part-time? Or is it a full-time job? Like, here we have 8 to 5, but full-time job. So can remote jobs be part-time?
Yes. There's a lot of part-time remote jobs, from stuff like data entry to stuff like CV writing, LinkedIn optimization. You can even do recruitment part-time. So in every field, for example, if you're in finance, you can do accounting part-time. So you put in 2 hours, 3 hours, you help them with reconciling their books, whatever it is. If you're in HR, you can do recruiting part-time. So they tell you they want this type of talent. They tell you they want it by this date. And then now you just start searching when you're free. You post the job when you're free. You do the interviews when you're free. And you now help them recruit when you're free. So in each industry, from sales to business development to customer service, there's ones that are part-time. You just need someone to guide you on the part-time ones and the full-time ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remote. So that basically means that you can be at any particular time do more than one, as many as your schedule can accommodate.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can do 2 or 3. I have people who do 3. Yeah. But the key is to get someone to help you. So for example, if you have a recruitment job, you have 2 remote roles, one as a HR and one as a recruiter. You do the HR one because it involves meeting, culture building, and stuff like that. And then now you get someone to help you with the recruitment bit, to read the CVs, to post the jobs, to reply to the emails. And then now you pay them in Kenya shillings while you're earning in dollars. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you. That's an interesting bit, and I hope you guys are actually learning, because the whole essence of this Q&A was to help you answer most of the questions that you ask, and especially most of the questions that you asked from our previous conversation with Brian. So my next question will be around the duration of remote job contracts. Yeah, mostly, especially for normal jobs, people are used to being on different terms. It's permanent, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, or even 5 years contract. So what is the nature of remote jobs, and what is how does the duration of the contracts look like?
Okay, that's a really good question. I get it a lot also. When it comes to remote job contracts, it's the same as normal contracts. There could be a contract where it's a 1 year contract, non-renewable, 1 year contract renewable, 2 year contract, 3 year contract, permanent contracts. So there's every type of contract. You just need to make sure that when you're going into the contract, you read the terms of engagement so that you know if it's renewable or not, and you know what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to deliver to make sure that you're renewed for the next 2 years or for the next 5 years once that contract is over. But this question is really tied a lot to like how secure are remote jobs. And it's something I get a lot. And I always tell people they're the most secure jobs.
Okay.
You know why? Because if I have a remote job and it only takes me 5 to 4 hours, that means I have time to either do another business or get another remote job. So that means that if for some reason I lose this one job, I have a plan B. And that's the only way you can secure yourself, because you can't depend on the company to secure you. You get? Because even people who are hired by USAID, people who are on millions per month, they were fired immediately. You see, so you can never depend on the company. You have to depend on yourself. And the remote jobs give you that ability to have 2, 3, 4 sources
multiple,
of income. Which is really, really great. I think it's one of the best parts of working remotely.
Okay. Okay. And what is now maybe on the contract termination process? Yeah, and I think that really is what makes many people feel scared, because it's a remote work. It's maybe you're dealing with people that you've never ever met, or you only meet maybe through calls. You don't have a physical location where you can maybe go with the labor officers or something. So in that, how are people covered in that front, especially when it comes to the process of termination, how people are sent, how people are sent home from work, or how your work can end? How is a remote worker protected in that front?
That's a really, really good question, Nellie. And in my experience in the last 5 years, none of our clients has had that type of termination where they had to legally go and sue the company. But just from my own research, I found that for most remote roles, when you're signing the contract, there's a lot of small protection clauses that are there for the employee. Okay, so this ensures that if they do ever terminate you abruptly, you can sue them with their laws. You see, so the labor officers from their country can be reached out to. You can get your claim, and you can be paid a lot of money if they do that. So you're really, really well protected, because most of these companies are, again, multinationals. Okay, and they have systems to make sure that you as an employee are as comfortable as possible. And no employee can be comfortable if you don't have that assurance of a job that is permanent, or a job that can't end immediately or anytime. You get, so they have those measures in their contracts.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I know you've just mentioned that most of these companies are multinationals, of course. So are there specific companies that are highly preferred for remote work?
Yes. So there's a lot of companies that hire remotely, especially in Africa. I think one of them is Athena. They've hired a lot of people, although in the last few months I've seen that their salaries are not what they used to be, but they've hired a lot of Kenyans and Africans altogether. There's also a lot of companies like the UN, UNDP, ISO, like the big NGOs, Care International. All of them hire a lot of people from Africa to work for maybe the UN in Iraq, or the UN in Iran, the UN in Israel remotely. And apart from that, there's a lot of other remote specific companies, and we post a lot of them on our LinkedIn profile. We can make sure that we provide those lists for you on the page, so that the people watching this can come and see them.
Thank you. I think that would be great, because again, also that is it's another key area on just identifying the specific companies that are known for hiring remotely, or that are always hiring, because again, that's also where scamming comes in. That because companies have also known, and people have also known, that job seekers are really having a high appetite. There's a high appetite for remote work. So it is an area that can really be used to, anyone can post a job and say we are hiring remotely. So I think that will really be important, just to leave a link or a description of companies that are highly preferred for remote work, that are always hiring remotely across Africa or within Kenya.
I'll make sure to provide that for you. And what people need to know is that for remote jobs, no one should ever ask you to pay anything. That is the biggest red flag ever. So anyone who says you pay for maybe equipment, or you pay them so that they can ship something to you, the laptop, or they can pay, like you pay for certifications or a course to be able to do that job, those are scammers. So you need to be very intelligent while moving in the remote space. And that's why I highly, highly recommend anyone who's looking to go into the space, first find someone, consult them. Even if it's a friend who has gotten a remote job, or if it's a career coach like us, you need to consult them so that you don't make mistakes. Because you don't want to end up losing 1.4 million like, that guy.
Or even losing a coin,
because it's life changing.
That's quite interesting. So I think, guys, that is quite important to note, that if you're looking for a remote job, it's really important that you take time and do your due diligence. Get someone who's walked that path. Get a career coach. Like Brian has worked with hundreds of guys looking to work remotely for the last 4 years. He's placed over 500 people. So if he tells you something in that space, he's speaking from a point of authority. Good. So my next question will be about the duration. How long is too long? How long does someone, today if I decide, Brian, I want to start looking for a remote job. So how long does it take someone to ultimately land a remote job?
That's an amazing question, Nellie.
And that will also link with what is the supply of these remote jobs in the market?
Okay. So in terms of how long it would take you to get a remote role, what we've seen is if you do the right things and if you do them consistently, it usually takes between 8 to 15 weeks to get one. So obviously that depends on the type of remote job you're looking for, the field you're in, how big of a role you're looking for, because entry-level ones take lesser and bigger roles take more time. But it usually takes between 8 to 15 weeks. So in terms of the supply, I'd say there's never been a higher supply for remote jobs. And there's so many companies. Even if you look every day, like I make personally 5 applications a day, and I never miss to find new companies every single day that are hiring for some of the skills I have. So if you're really about it, if you're really serious about doing it, 8 to 12 weeks should be the most time you take. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think that's interesting. So there's the bit of constantly applying.
Yeah.
Knowing what you're applying to, because I come from a point where I don't believe in people just throwing applications. You end up getting very frustrated. Yeah. So applying correctly. Yeah. Oh, so guys, so if you're looking for a remote job, you have it. Applying for quality, not for quantity. So you can apply for 10, like Brian is saying, is applying 5 to 10, but is applying for those ones that are aligning with the skills that he has. So you really need to focus and ensure that when you're putting out those, those applications, you're really applying to jobs that are that requires skills that you have. So about legitimacy of remote jobs, Brian, you've talked much about being asked to pay for anything. Yeah, so if a company or if anyone asks you to pay for whatever thing, then that should be one of the red flags. Maybe I just want us to dig deeper into that question, because hey, it is the biggest area where people get scammed, my friend. So what are some of the red flags? Maybe will you just give us as many as you can remember? What are some of the red flags that if I start looking for a remote job and I see, I should just run?
Okay. I think the first is what I said. If you're told to pay for anything, run very fast in the opposite direction. Number 2 is if it seems too easy. Like getting a job in Kenya is not easy. You have to do a lot of interviews, applications, all of that. So imagine now on a global scale, you're competing with people from Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Tanzania, Middle East, people in Dubai, people in the UK, the US, all of those countries are competing for the same remote jobs, okay? Anyone who speaks English. So if it seems too easy to get, then that is a huge red flag of a fake job. So if you apply today and they interview today and they say you have the contract next week, that is fake. Yeah, and then one of the other things that you need to know is to look at the job description. So you go to the job description and you see like it's been written by ChatGPT, or it seems that it has a lot of errors, has a lot of problems. Or if you go to the job description and it focuses on what you get as an employee instead of what you're supposed to give the company. So you get a job description that talks about, so you get 100K USD a month, you get this benefit, you get this benefit, you can work from anywhere. Yeah, that is a clear sign that someone wants a lot of attention from people so that they can scam the people. Yeah, because a legitimate remote job will talk about what they need from you. What skills do you need to have? What qualifications do you need to have? What competencies do you need to possess? Have. Yeah. So if it talks about the latter, like the opposite, which is what you are gonna get, then that is a clear sign of a fake job.
It entices you more.
Yeah, they're lying to you. Yeah. Another thing is, anytime you do get an interview for a remote role, please consult someone. You could consult me or anyone else who has some experience in the remote space, and make sure to go on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, on Instagram, and search the name of that company and see what people say about that company. So there's jobs that are remote that are legit, but now the boss is very bad, doesn't pay you or pays you after 2 months, or maybe it's legit, but now they say they'll pay you this, but they pay you half of that, you see. So the only way to find those things out without going into the company first is to go on social media and check what other people, what other employees say about that company. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite important to you guys. I think Brian has provided a long list of possible red flags that you should be looking for, so that, you don't resign in a hurry from your permanent and pensionable 8 to 5 to come and work at the comfort of your house only to get paid half, or to get paid after 2 months, or even to realize that it was actually a fake job after some time. So please do your due diligence. I know there's a lot of excitement about remote works. I mean, who wouldn't want to work at the comfort of their home? But again, let it not be something that is going to make us make very regrettable decisions because we fail to do our part, which is the due diligence that Brian has talked about.
Yes.
Good. So Brian, that brings me to another question, and we've talked much about skills, we've talked about competencies. In the previous video, I know we talked much about the interview process. And, even this Q&A is really just continuously shedding more light into the deeper truth about remote work.
Yeah.
So, as a remote work consultant, do you think anyone can work remotely?
Yes, 100%. I believe anyone as long as you have a phone and a laptop, or even just a phone or just a laptop, and it's connected to the internet, you can 100% work remotely. There's roles from social media management, customer service, sales that you can do with just your phone. All you have to do is log into the meeting, talk to someone, convince them to buy the product, or apologize for the error that the product has as a customer service, or just manage a company's social media, reply to messages, reply to comments, stuff like that. So literally anyone. Like, the bar to entry is so low. All you have to do is learn how to apply for them, learn how to interview for them, and then now be patient to get the job.
Yeah, and maybe just also to elaborate on that question, you've talked about maybe what someone needs to have, but again, in terms of the personality or the character of a person, because I see remote job as a job that has a lot of freedom. Of course, there's the aspect of, you have to deliver on your job. But again, I don't have to wake up early at 3 or 4 a.m. to try to beat the traffic. So how does someone inculcate that discipline? Because I'm working from home. I can wake up anytime. I get to the kitchen, make food for myself.
Yeah.
So, but I still have deadlines and timelines to deliver a project.
Yeah.
I think I really want us to have that conversation more in that line. And even as people think that it is easy, I know you work from home. I have a few people within my network who work from home, and they tell me it's not easy. While me, I'm like, okay, I want to come and work from home. So what really makes it not easy? Yeah.
Okay. I think that part of cultivating that discipline is the hardest thing, because I have a TV, I have my phone, I have my games on
and
the
you
phone.
don't have a supervisor standing there walking into your desk every now and then.
You get messages from your friends. There's your couch there, you can go sleep. There's the bed. You can literally do anything in your house, and no one's seeing you. So most companies have measures to just make sure that when you're doing the work, they can see that you're doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, so they track you through the apps. But when it comes to project-based roles like the one I do, you just have to make yourself disciplined. So I usually recommend to most of the people I talk to, from my friends to families to everyone, once you get a remote job, you need to do something called a dopamine detox. So like a week before you start, you turn off your phone, or you give your phone to your friend, and then you take your remote for the TV, give it to your neighbor, and then you just stay in the house without anything exciting you. So it makes you so bored to a point that even doing work is exciting. So once you do that dopamine detox, it becomes easier to focus and do the job that you're given. But apart from that discipline thing, the remote job is amazing. Working from home is really, really amazing. Yeah. So there's a lot of techniques that you can use, like the dopamine detox, or just making sure that you turn off your notifications, or you turn off your phone when you're waking up, or you give your remote to your neighbor or your mom to hold it for you if you're working from the family home. Yeah. But I think that is the biggest thing, just cultivating that discipline. And once you do it after the first 2-3 weeks, it becomes really easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I'll start with the dopamine detox, so I can keep off any form of distraction while working.
Yes, it's really powerful.
Yeah. And you've talked about many advantages of working from home. But as we're always told, there's nothing with advantages that doesn't have disadvantages. So what do you think are the disadvantages of remote work? What are the downsides?
Okay, I think the biggest downsides to remote work has to be loneliness. Like you stay at home alone for too long and you forget how to talk to people and how to interact with people. But that one is easily solvable. You just need to find an afternoon or evening activity that you do. Maybe go to the gym or go to dance classes or go to any type of class where you interact with people.
Yeah, where you'll so you have a social network.
Yeah. Okay. Apart from that, the other thing is like the lack of supervision. So there's people who thrive when they're working without supervision, but then there's people who do not. There's people who do not at all. There's people who have to be like, they're really good at what they do, but they have to have someone there watching what they do so that they do it correctly. And that's why millions of companies invest in managers to manage the staff, you see. Yeah, but so once you develop that discipline, it becomes easier, but that's one of the biggest parts, because you could just clock into work and watch your TV. You could clock into work and be on your phone. You could be talking to a client and be on your phone. So that thing of discipline is one of the biggest downsides. And apart from that, I don't think there's too many things. It's just those two that I've experienced.
Job security is not an issue.
No, I don't think out of the 500 plus people we've helped, only one has lost the role, and it was completely on her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Good. So, Brian, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. And as we come to the end, I have one last question, which I get people asking a lot. And my question is, are there specific jobs that attract more remote opportunities than others? You know, are there those jobs that, you know, if someone just has this skill, there are hundreds plus remote opportunities for them. Yeah.
That's a really good question. Yeah. I usually don't like answering too much because it discourages some people.
Yeah. Especially people who are not in that category.
Yeah. But of course, if you have the time and the energy and the ability to learn this type of skills, you could have a huge advantage when it comes to getting a remote role. So if I was starting out and I wanted to get into the remote space, these are the companies, or these are the skills that I would focus on. So the first one would be tech skills. So anything from front-end development, software development, back-end development, full stack, data analysis, financial analysis, anything in that end. There's so many remote roles from tech companies in the US, in the UK, everywhere. The second one will be something in accounting. There's so many accounting / finance manager type of roles that are fully remote from across the world. The third one would be something in digital marketing or marketing in general, which involves designing, like graphic designers, digital marketers, social media management, paid ads specialists. So you run ads. You can even be like a WhatsApp media buyer, stuff like that. You can work fully from home, and there's so many opportunities. I think the fourth one would be now project management, either in NGO space or in a company space. So project management also includes operations management and management type of roles. There's so many companies that hire people remotely, and these companies need people to manage the people working remotely so that they do their job. So you there's a project, you and me are in the project, then there's someone who's making sure that I do my bit so that you're not slowed down. So there's a lot of project management, program management type of roles. And then now I think the fifth one would be something in customer service, sales, business development. So there's a lot of jobs where you sell for these remote companies. Maybe I have a coaching program. Maybe I have a software that I sell. Or now in the other side, after I've sold and a customer has a problem, now I need someone to help me solve that problem. So customer service roles and sales jobs are a lot in the remote space. So something I want to tell people is, I've seen so many people applying and working really hard to become administrative assistants or virtual assistants. But I think it's too overcrowded at this point. I don't think you can earn a lot being a virtual assistant, and I don't think there's so much room for growth. So I'd advise, if you have those skills, you now transfer them maybe to project management. You do the relevant certifications and courses, you go into and become a project manager and you manage the project instead of just being an assistant to the CEO or in the company. Yeah.
Wow. I think that's quite insightful. So yes, guys, there you have it. This has been an amazing conversation. I have learned a lot from the Q&A, and if you're out there and you're looking for a remote job, be sure to follow through this conversation. Be sure to implement bit by bit. We will be doing a part 2 of these same conversations as Brian help us to answer more questions that you guys have been asking. So as always, if you're looking for remote jobs, guys, you know the right guy to go to. And from the previous video, I know so many of you who have already reached out to Brian. And I can just only imagine, we've been told that it is 8 to 15 weeks or so. Yeah, so I'm waiting for celebrations come March, come April, of guys just coming back and saying that, you know what, we already landed our first remote jobs. So I wish you well. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you've not subscribed to this channel, this is a good opportunity for you to join this community where we're all about learning. And this year, guys, we'll be having more conversations about remote work, because this is where the world is going to. You know, we all want that flexibility and we all want that more money. So make sure to be checking us out every week as we post a video. Share this content with your friends, like, subscribe, and be part of this community. So see you in the next episode.